Hey there guys, how's it going? We are back with another video. This time we are going to be covering ailments and builds for all of the valor plates in Godfall. This will be a quick reference guide to the ailments at the beginning of every video, just in case you haven't seen the series or you haven't watched the previous videos, or you're only looking for the video of the one that you're most interested in. So getting started, ailments in Godfall are like elements. So pretty much every damage type, whether if it's physical damage, fire damage, earth damage, water damage, air damage, void damage, which you can see on the screen, has a DOT, or a damage over time effect, a dot as it's called, that deals damage over time as applied as like a status effect. So in other games like Monster Hunter, you would have poison, status, those types of things that deal damage over time. In Godfall, each damage type has its own DOT, which is actually pretty interesting, and that's what we'll be covering for all the valor plates that are focused around these ailment types. So for physical damage, you have bleed. For fire damage, you have ignite. Earth damage, you have poison. Water damage, you have ice or chill. You have air damage, which does shock or lightning, and void damage, which does curse. So that's what you're looking for. It'll say inflict with a percentage, and that's what we're going to be getting into now. So if you haven't seen the other videos where we've been covering the ailments, Mesa is kind of the third one that you can unlock, with Phoenix being first, and then your choice of Bulwark or Mesa after that. Mesa is kind of a unique valor plate, because although her DOT is poison and that's her element, there's not a lot of poison support that I've seen so far, early game or even in game. So it's kind of scarce. Maybe they'll improve it with updates, but for now, let's just get into what we have. So Mesa will give you 10% chance to inflict poison onto enemies right from the start, just for using her. And of course, as before with other valor plates, her Archon Fury gives you additional effects. So for her Archon Fury, or her super, it unleashes a shockwave similar to Phoenix, if you saw that video, that deals 30 earth damage to enemies around you. So at that same time that she's doing the shockwave, when you activate the super, she gets a 90% chance increase, which makes it overall 100, to inflict poison onto enemies, and then she'll do 100% damage to poisoned enemies. And then on top of that, whatever weapon you're using will start to do earth damage. So getting into it, like I said, with Mesa, you want to use poison, but the hard thing about her is that there aren't a lot of weapon variety for her. I mean, there's not like a ton of weapons. There's very few weapons. So getting into the few weapons that she has, the same with all the other valor plates, there are a few uncommon weapons. For her, it is a hammer, and this hammer is called the Earth Hammer. It has, around level 7, a 7% chance to inflict poison. So this hammer is the only hammer that you really have to inflict poison at low levels, at least when you're starting out the game. Moving up, you will unlock another hammer, and that's the one that we have equipped. Let me go get it, which is the Verdant Crusade. The Verdant Crusade does 52 points of earth damage, and you will gain the greater blessing of endurance. So endurance will reduce how much damage you take from enemies. So since this is a greater blessing and not a regular blessing, it doesn't say the numbers either way, but hopefully it's a good amount. Hopefully like 20 to 30%. That would be nice. Whenever you defeat an enemy that is poisoned, you get this blessing. So on top of that, the secondary effect, which varies from weapon to weapon, around level 10 is when you get this item. This one has 22% damage to poisoned enemies. So as long as they're already poisoned, you're going to kill them, fairly quickly. With the other hammer, since it just inflicted the poison on them, you could equip both of them, to be honest, and then switch between them. But as you see, like, there's only hammers, and those are really the only two weapons that inflict or even have to do with poison. The other one that you can get is called the mountain born. I was about to say mountain breaker, mountain born breaker, which is a ram themed hammer. As you see, there's a hammer theme here for poison and earth. And this one, so whenever you soul shatter an enemy, the enemy will explode and deal 185 points of earth damage to nearby enemies in the AoE. This one also has a 6% chance to inflict poison onto enemies, and you get this one just for playing the game. Every playthrough I have gotten this weapon specifically at a certain point in the story missions in the Earth realm. So you're guaranteed to get this legendary weapon around level 9. So probably like level 7, level 8-ish, depending. And that's kind of it. Low level, like, those are really your only options. And it's really sad, to be honest, because poison doesn't get a lot of support in this game, at least right now. You have this one hammer, and then you have the epic version of pretty much like the rest of the effect. And then that's really it. Like, I haven't seen too many other weapons that support the poison type, and they're all hammers. So you can get them on random effects. I do believe I had one. Yeah. So I had one great sword that randomly got it on a secondary, but that's not guaranteed. That's just RNG that it'll get inflict poison. So yeah, like, hopefully poison gets more support. It's the only element that I don't use because it just doesn't have enough variety in it. But at least for weapons for right now, those are really powerful weapons that are going to deal a lot of damage. And we'll show the Soul Shatter explosion later when we get to the training room portion. But for now, that's it for weapons, and we're going to move on to the next section. So following the theme of weapons, rings can also help you out with your build when you're playing Mesa and going through the game. So if you really like Mesa and you like inflicting poison on people and watching their health drop and being that little sanguine fiend that you are, rings will help out. So we do have some rings that can help. One of them is a toxic ring, which you do get early on. Let me see if I can find the first one. Okay, so the first one I acquired was around level 11, and around level 11 it gives you a 7% chance to inflict poison and 44 points of vitality, which go towards your health pool. So the one that I have now at level 24 gives you 72 points of vitality and 8% chance to inflict poison. The good thing about the items in this game, if you haven't watched the other videos, is that you can increase the rarity and upgrade items. So you can upgrade the weapons, the armors, the rings, and etc, etc. And there also are special rings. I have a special ring here that I can show off, which I didn't show off for anyone else because I don't have other types. But the other ring here, which Mesa can use, which is really good, which is Sunrise Ring. And this one you get just through playing the game. It's going to drop eventually. I forgot what area it drops in, but you guaranteed get it. So the primary effect is gain 2% Archon Fury charge. So that's the super that we want to use, where we get 100% inflict damage and stuff like that. So you gain 2% charge for the super whenever you defeat an enemy with a takedown. So a takedown is kind of like a finisher. If you've played God of War or Assassin's Creed or Warframe or anything else, the enemy's health gets low and you can activate an animation to kind of like decapitate them or finish them off or something. So takedowns are really good, especially because you're using a hammer. Hammers can put enemies in a weakened state faster than other weapons. And when they're in that weakened state, you can guarantee to go for a takedown. So this is very good for her. The secondary abilities One of them has Archon Fury damage, so you'll be dealing more damage when your super is active by 16%. And it also has plus 25% damage to poisoned enemies. So right there, it's helping you. Another ring that you could use, which I don't have, unfortunately, because it hasn't really dropped, is a band for Earth. So you'll get these sort of like wedding band circle, I was gonna say circlets, circle rings that just give you additional damage. So you'll see this one has 15% physical damage. This one has void damage. And this one has water damage. So there is one for earth damage. I just haven't gotten it yet. Like I said, I don't want to sound discouraging, but there really isn't enough support for Mesa early in the game. Even though she's an early game character, there's just not that much support for her right off the bat. But at least with these two rings, you can get the toxic ring pretty early, as I showed, and then you're going to guarantee to get the sunrise ring. These are two items that can help you with dealing that poison damage, inflicting the poison, and keeping it going. And plus, like I said, with the hammers, you're dealing a lot of damage, so you're going to stun enemies when you fill up the breach bar, which I'll show off later in the combat training. So you can get the takedowns and get the support you need to, make your build playable. So lastly, our last three sections will be Lifestones, banners, and the skill tree. So with Lifestones are kind of like the flask from Dark Souls. It's the item that you use to recover your health. And in this game, there are multiple items that you can use, especially for Earth, but it depends on what you want to do. So one that I use is the bead of hardened Aetherium, however it's pronounced. You get this one fairly easy. It drops really fast, like low levels. And the good thing about this item is that I'm wearing the one. This one dropped for me around level 7. And what it does is it gives you 13% chance to inflict ailments. So this is kind of like a general, like any ailment that you have equipped, it'll give you that boost of 13%. There is a earth stone. No, I don't have it yet. Do I have it? Oh, there it is. There is an earth stone, but it doesn't guarantee poison. So this one had it as a random roll as a secondary effect. It will increase earth damage, which does increase your chance to deal poison damage just from the earth damage alone. But you kind of want the inflict to have that guaranteed way to get people to be affected by your status effect or your ailment. But this one got it. So it got the 5%, and it also has 49% earth damage with 193 points of recovery to your health when you activate it for 10 seconds. So when you activate it, you get this 10-second boost while your health is refilling, because your health refills slowly over time. For the points, it's not an instant refill, but over those 10 seconds, you know that while your health is refilling, you have this bonus to your damage active. There are a couple other special Lifestones that will pop up later in the game, but at least early on right now, those are your two best options. So if you get a good Radiant Pearl that has inflict poison with the earth damage, I would definitely say use it. But if you get the bead of hardened Aetherium, I would much prefer going with that one, since you have a higher percentage chance. But of course, it depends on the weapon that you have and if you can upgrade it. Test things out, play around with the numbers, and see what you can do. The other item that you have is the Plague Penance. So banners are kind of like a AoE support item for you and your teammates if you're playing co-op. And what the Plague Banner does, let me see if I have another one. I think it has the lowest one already. Yeah. So with the Plague Banner around level 7, you see all this stuff is coming in early in the game. So it's kind of preparing you to play these multiple characters. You get a 21% chance to inflict an ailment, and then you get 39% boost in damage for each ailment that you inflict on the enemy. So since you have poison with Mesa, you're getting a 21% boost when you activate it. So with the banner, you're going to put a kind of like a flag in the ground, and it's going to give you a big AoE circle. We're going to show it later on, but at least with that active, you're getting that 21% boost. And as you get higher in levels, so I had one at level 7, that was the first one I got, and then now the last one I got was at level 20, so it's a 22% increase with a 43% damage buff. And their secondary abilities are always random, but if you can get a good one, the one that I have equipped right now gives me 10% takedown damage, which helps towards that secondary, kind of like a hybrid build type of thing for the hammer. So, we'll show that later, but that's a good thing that it works with the build and it helps moving forward with gameplay. So also with that, we can show the skills tree. Sorry. So we have an ailment tab over here in the skills tree. And so for level 1, 2, and 4, that'll give you a percentage buff. And then level 3 and 5 will increase your percentage buff for each ailment. So overall, if we go back to the equipment tab, you can see on the right hand side at the bottom where it says ailment chance, all the ailments are at 8%. So I'm getting an 8% boost, which is kind of weird. And this is why I say I think the numbers are off, because with all the other characters, I have a 13% boost to my ailment chance, while with Mesa, it's only an 8% boost to all ailments. So I think there's something wrong with Mesa that they probably don't know about, but it's kind of hard to tell. So you may be wondering why it's not higher than that. So her poison chance is at 31% instead of like 40% or above 50%. The reason for that is with the with the Lifestone and the banner, those are activated items. So you only get those for a short amount of time. The Lifestone, you get 10 seconds when you activate it. The banner, you get about 30 seconds when you activate the banner. Those don't count towards your overall stats. So if we were to play around with it, no, they're both the same. Even if you switch the weapons, it would still say the same amount of ailment chance, but for some reason hers seems to be lower than others. And this is the same build throughout all of the videos I'm doing. I haven't changed anything with my skill points, but for hers it's lower. So ignoring that, we're going to get into the training portion to show off what the weapons can do and what the poison looks like and how much damage it does. All right, so here we are in the training room, and we are going to go through a little bit of what makes the hammer and poison so well. So we're going to try to inflict damage on this training dummy and see what we can get going. So off the first hit was already poisoned, dealing 26 points of damage. And as you see, their health bar has kind of a white filling over it. That's the soul shatter. So when I do a heavy hit, they're going to explode. One of the weapons used that, I believe. Greater blessing. Yeah, there we go. So the legendary weapon, which honestly looks like her now that I think about it, it's probably her signature weapon, because it also has horns and she has the ram horns. When you do a soul shatter with this weapon, they're going to explode and deal earth damage. So there was a yellow flash there. That would be the earth damage. So if you saw the yellow flash, that's the earth explosion. So it does an AoE explosion that hits other enemies. Oops, I accidentally killed him. And that's going to take out a good amount of enemies. The good thing about this game is that enemies are really aggressive at higher levels. So they're going to like just run at you at all times. So that good size AoE explosion is going to hit a good number of enemies, sometimes 5 or 6 enemies, and deal that damage and spread it around. The other thing that we'll look at is the banner. So if you press up on the D-pad, I'm using a controller on PC, if he lets me. The banner is in, and as you can see, it goes past the door. and it goes all the way out here. So you have a very big circle that you can, have as a buff. So if you're fighting a boss or you're fighting mobs, you have a lot of space to work with. And if you're playing co-op, so do the other people you're playing with. So if they're using ailments, they also have a good chance to inflict ailments on their enemies, or like just the boss itself. If you want to like double and triple up on ailments, that's always fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as these weapons go. The Blessing of Endurance, it doesn't show you on the screen anywhere, at least that I know of, that that you have the blessing active. So we're gonna kill him and see. It says it has a little countdown on the left side of the screen there, but it doesn't say how much you get, how much damage reduction you're receiving. As long as the enemy is poisoned, that's kind of all that matters. Oh, and takedowns. So the mechanic is called breach. And breach, when you use a hammer, you have a higher chance of breaching enemies because you're doing a lot of breach damage. So you kind of stun them when that golden bar fills up, and then it's going to have you push in the right stick to just finish them off. And you can do this to some bosses, not all bosses. And certain low level enemies, if you parry their attacks at a certain health threshold, you can automatically get a takedown, but you have to have that skill unlocked. Let me see. And then lastly, we'll do the Archon's Fury. So the Archon's Fury does that shockwave, which instantly poisons enemies. And then you have the increased 100%. So instantly, automatically poisoned first hit, as long as it's active. And then with that, you can see with her, because I'm killing them and they're poisoned, with this hammer, I'm getting a reduction in damage, which keeps re-triggering every time I kill an enemy that's poisoned. So you're getting a good damage reduction while doing high amounts of damage. Mesa is really good with that, which is what's fun about her. It's just the lack of weapons for me tend to make her not very desirable over time. If they add more weapons, hopefully they do in upcoming updates and patches, I think she would be really fun to play because she has a good balance of defense and offense, where as long as you can keep that damage reduction buff going, you can keep yourself alive. And that'll come with higher levels and more ailment to inflict, from healing, from using your life stone and your banner when it refills, and then just constantly re-triggering effects to get the poison off. There are also other items that you can use, like the amulet and the charm. If you find an item that has earth damage or inflict poison, equip them definitely to help out your build. But other than that, that's about it for us today. That shows off Mesa, and like I said, she's really fun. I just wish she had more weapons than hammers. At least like a great sword or some dual blades or a long sword or something that specializes in poison damage that would really, kind of spice things up or switch things around. Because for right now, it's just a hammer fest. I mean, I know she's earth, but even though she's an earth type, I would still like to see something other than a hammer. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next guide. I hope this was helpful, and I hope that if you're not interested, or if you're not playing Godfall, I hope that this gives you some insight as to how the game works and hopefully gets you interested. It's a fun game. The combat is really amazing, and even though it's early in development, even after launch, there is a lot of potential in this game, and I'm just having a blast with it. So if I don't see you out there on the battlefield, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.